Hi, everybody, and welcome back. I need you to take a deep breath before we start today, because this one is going to make you feel things you did not budget for on a Tuesday, or a Wednesday, or whatever day you are watching this. We are talking about a woman whose entire family, her mother, her aunts, her cousins, every single person in her blood circle, turned their backs on her overnight, based on nothing, based on a whisper from a sister who decided she was guilty before she asked a single question. We are talking about months of silence, of unanswered calls, of being frozen out of family group chats while she sat alone wondering what version of herself everyone else had decided she was. And we are talking about a truth that was sitting there the whole time, quiet, patient, waiting. And when it finally came out, oh, it did not come quietly. Stay with me. This story ends in a room full of people who all have to reckon with what they did. Let's get into it. Our narrator, let's call her Lily, is 25 years old, living in Atlanta, Georgia. She works as a pediatric nurse. She shares an apartment with a roommate named Cassie, whom she describes as one of the only people with. He believed her from day one. Lily grew up in a close family, big Sunday dinners, group chats for every occasion. The kind of family that shows up for everything: graduations, breakups, minor surgeries, new jobs. The kind of closeness that feels like a fortress when life is good and feels like a cage when it turns on you. Her older sister, let's call her Dana, is 29. Dana is, by Lily's description, the golden child, not in a cruel way, just in the way that some firstborns occupy a certain altitude in the family structure and everyone unconsciously defers to them. Dana is polished. Dana is organized. Dana is the one who sends birthday cards on time and remembers everyone's anniversaries. She got engaged 18 months before this story starts. Her fiancé, let's call him Ryan, is 31, works in commercial insurance. He and Dana met at a work conference 5 years ago. They have been together ever since. Ryan and Lily get along fine, not close, not awkward, just fine. The kind of relationship that exists at the intersection of your sister's partner and your family gatherings, polite, warm in a surface way, entirely defined by the fact that someone else chose him. Lily has no particular feelings about Ryan. He is just Dana's fiancé. He brings decent wine to Thanksgiving and remembers to ask about her job. That is the full extent of it. Now, there is one detail that matters enormously and will matter more as this story unfolds. Lily's name is Lily, just Lily. And there is another woman, no connection to Lily whatsoever, no shared social circle, no mutual friends also named Lily. Another woman in Ryan's life who shares only this one thing with our narrator, a first name, a completely ordinary, completely common first name that happens to appear in two different places in this man's phone. That is the seed. That is the tiny, devastating coincidence that breaks everything open. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. The trouble starts on a Friday evening in late October. Lily is at home with Cassie, watching television, minding her own life entirely. Her phone rings. It's Dana. Lily answers. She will spend a long time afterward wishing she had let it go to voicemail. Not because the call could have been avoided, the truth was already in motion, but because what Dana said in that call was so sudden, so forceful, so completely without preamble, that Wiley had no time to prepare herself. Dana said, "I know what you did. I know about you and Ryan, and I need you to stay away from my family until you're ready to apologize." And then Dana hung up. Lily sat with her phone in her hand. Cassie looked at her from across the couch, and Lily said, she says, this is the exact sentence she said, "My sister just accused me of sleeping with her fiancé." Cassie said, "What?" Lily said, "I genuinely have no idea what is happening. That was our one. And it was about to get significantly worse. Within 24 hours, the family had assembled its verdict. Lily doesn't know exactly what Dana told them or how she framed it. She only knows the results. Her mother called and said she was very disappointed. She didn't ask questions. She expressed disappointment and then said she hoped Lily would do the right thing. Her aunt Patricia, her mother's sister, always the family's unofficial moral authority, sent a text that said simply, "Shameful." Her cousin Bree, who Lily had considered one of her closest friends in the family, changed her contact photo in the group chat and then left the group chat entirely. A cousin Lily barely spoke to. A second cousin named Derek, who she sees maybe once a year at Christmas, somehow heard about it and sent a Facebook message that said, "You should be ashamed of yourself." Lily had not spoken to a single one of these people in the 48 hours since the call. She had not had the chance. She had texted Dana immediately asking what she was talking about. Dana did not respond. She called her mother to explain. Her mother said she didn't want to hear excuses. She texted her Aunt Patricia asking to talk. Patricia left her on read. No one, not one person, asked her what actually happened. She tried Ryan. She texted him once, carefully, a message that said, "Ryan, my sister is accusing me of something I didn't do. Can you please tell her that nothing happened between us? I don't know where this is coming from, but I need you to set this straight." Ryan read the message. She could see the read receipt. He did not respond. He read it. He knew it was a false accusation. He sat with that knowledge because whatever had actually happened, whatever messages Dana had found, he knew they were not from Lily, and he chose silence. He chose to let a woman he had known for years be accurate, said of something she didn't do rather than open his mouth and correct the record. He chose himself, quietly, in the cowardly way that small men choose themselves when the cost of honesty is too high. That silence, Ryan's silence, is the engine of this entire story. Everything that happens next, every day of isolation Lily endures, every tear cried into her phone at midnight, every family gathering she is quietly excluded from, all of it is made possible by one man who read a text message, saw a read receipt populate on her screen, and put his phone face down. Lily went to work the following Monday. She took care of small children. She smiled at parents. She did her job with complete professionalism. And then she went home and cried so hard she gave herself a headache. This went on for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of family silence is not a quiet thing. It has a texture. It has a specific daily weight that people who haven't experienced it tend to underestimate. It is not just the absence of calls. It is the awareness every single day that a version of you is circulating in a group chat you can no longer see. It is the knowledge that your name is being said around tables you used to, or sit at, in context you cannot defend yourself in. It is checking your phone on a Sunday morning, the time when family messages usually came in, and finding nothing. It is your mother's birthday approaching and not knowing whether showing up would make things better or worse. It is existing in a defined state of guilt without trial, without evidence, without a single person extending you the basic dignity of asking your side first. Lily told Cassie everything. Cassie, who had known Lily for 3 years, who had lived through every relationship, every family story, every Sunday phone call, Cassie said simply, "I know you. This is insane. What does Ryan say?" And Lily said, "Ryan said nothing." And Cassie looked at the ceiling for a moment and said, "Then Ryan is the problem." Lily knew Ryan was the problem, but knowing didn't solve anything. She had no proof of her own innocence beyond the straightforward fact of it. She could not prove a negative. She could not produce evidence that something did not happen. She had no text chain to show, no alibi to offer for a non-event, no witness to a nothing. The absence of an affair left no trace, and Dana had apparently found something, some message, some indication that had convinced her thoroughly enough to go nuclear without a single conversation. Lily started wondering what Dana had actually found. She thought about it obsessively. She replayed every interaction she'd ever had with Ryan, every family dinner, every group event, every text she had ever sent him, which were few, practical, about things like confirming arrival times or asking what Dana wanted for her birthday. None of it amounted to anything. None of it could have been misread as an affair. So what had Dana seen? She didn't find out for another 3 weeks. And the answer when it came was so specific, so absurd, so perfectly calibrated to create maximum damage from minimum information that Lily almost couldn't process it when she heard it. It was Cassie who figured it out first, or at least started the thread that led to figuring it out. Cassie had been doing her own informal investigation. Not in a dramatic way, just the kind of background thinking that happens when someone you care about is being wronged and you can't let it go. She had been thinking about Ryan, about what could have been on his phone that was bad. Enough to convince Dana of an affair, but directed at someone other than Lily. She asked Lily one evening, almost as an offhand question, "Is your name common? Like, do you know other people named Lily?" Lily said yes, of course. It was not an unusual name, Cassie said. "Is there any chance Ryan knows someone else named Lily?" Lily went very still. She said, I don't know, Cassie said. Because if Dana found messages on his phone from someone named Lily, and she assumed it was you, Lily said. Oh my God. They sat with that for a moment. The thing is, and this is what makes this theory devastating rather than merely possible, it would explain everything. It would explain why Dana was so immediately certain. She found a name she recognized on her fiancé's phone, a name attached to messages she found alarming. And she connected those messages to the Lily she already knew, without pausing to consider that there might be another one. She skipped the step where you asked the question. She went directly from I see this name to I know who this is without any bridge in between. And that leap, that single catastrophic assumption cost Lily 6 weeks of her life and nearly cost her family. But they still didn't know for certain. They had a theory. Lily needed to know if it was true. She did the only thing available to her. She called Dana. Dana did not pick up. She left a voicemail. She said, Dana, I need to ask you one question. Whatever messages you found, can you tell me what name they were from? Because I need to check something. I think something is very wrong here. Please call me back. Dana did not call back, she texted. Dana left her on read. She called their mother and asked the same question. Her mother said she didn't want to be in the middle of it. Lily said she wasn't asking her to take a side. She was asking her to pass along one question. Her mother said she would see what she could do. She did not call back either. Lily was stuck. She had a theory and no way to confirm it. She had the beginning of the truth and no path to the end of it. And then, 3 days later, something happened that she had not planned, had not expected, and had absolutely no control over. The other Lily called Ryan. Here is what Lily later learned had happened, reconstructed from conversations after the fact. The other woman, the other. Lily had been trying to reach Ryan for weeks. She did not know anything about Dana's accusation. She did not know about our Lily at all. She was, apparently, someone Ryan had been seeing on the side, not a one-time thing, not a miscommunication, an actual ongoing situation that he had been maintaining alongside his engagement. She had been trying to reach him for weeks, and he had been going quiet on her. The way men in impossible situations go quiet when they realize the architecture of their lives is collapsing. She did not know she was one of at least 3 people in a converging story. She only knew that Ryan had stopped responding, and she was not going to quietly accept that. So she called him. And she did not just call his cell phone. She called the landline of a number she had, which happened to be the number for the house Ryan shared with Dana. Dana picked up. What was said in that phone call, Lily only knows in fragments. She knows enough. The other Lily, presumably not knowing who had answered, said enough. Dana, hearing a strange woman ask for Ryan by name, asked who she was. The conversation apparently lasted 4 minutes. By the end of those 4 minutes, Dana knew. W, not suspected, not wondered. No. This was someone entirely different, someone whose voice Dana had never heard, and humiliating detail that Dana's fiancé had been lying to her for a long time, and that our Lily had nothing to her for a long time, and that our Lily had nothing to do with any of it. Dana hung up the phone. Ryan was in the other room. What happened between them in the next hour, Lily was not there to witness. She has chosen, in her update, not to include those details. She says it is not her story to tell. What she does tell us is what came after. Dana called her. Finally, Dana called Lily. It had been 9 weeks. Lily saw the name on her screen. Her hands went cold, she answered. And Dana's voice, the voice of a woman who had spent 9 weeks absolutely certain of something that was absolutely wrong, was barely recognizable. Not because she was screaming. The opposite. She was very quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after something enormous. She said, "It wasn't you?" Lily said nothing. She was waiting. There was someone else. "There's been someone else. It wasn't you and I told everyone it was you. El Dimam. I told Aunt Patricia. I told everyone." Lily said, "I know what you told them." Dana started to cry. She said she was sorry. She said she had been so sure. She said she had seen the name, and she had been so sure, and she hadn't even considered. And here is the moment that defines Lily's character for me completely. Because what she said next was not, "I forgive you." It was not, "It's okay." It was not the warm, immediate absolution that sisters in tearful reconciliation scenes are supposed to offer. She said, Dana, I need you to call every single person you told. Tonight, not tomorrow, tonight, you are going to call Mom. You are going to call Aunt Patricia. You are going to call Bree. You are going to call every person who texted me, messaged me, or removed me from any group chat. And you are going to tell them exactly what you just told me, that you were wrong, that there was no evidence against me, that you assumed, and that I have been living with this for 9 weeks while you let it stand. That is what needs to happen before I can have this conversation with you. Silence on Dana's end. Then Dana said, Okay. Lily said, Tonight. And they hung up. Okay, I need to stop here. Because I have been sitting with Lily's story for a while now, and I keep coming back to one thing. One specific, infuriating, clarifying thing. And I need to talk about it. Ryan knew. From the moment Dana first acquired, said Lily, Ryan knew the accusation was wrong. He knew because he knew exactly who those messages were from, and it was not Lily. He had been conducting an entirely separate deception, not against Lily, not involving Lily, and when the accusation landed on the wrong person, he let it stay there. He let Lily absorb 9 weeks of family silence, 9 weeks of her mother's disappointment, and her aunt's shameful texts, and her cousin removing her from group chats. He read Lily's message, asking him to clear her name. He put his phone face down. Why? Because telling the truth would have required him to admit to something much worse. He wasn't going to throw himself on a grenade when there was someone else available to lie in front of it. Lily was a convenient scapegoat precisely because the accusation was not his to correct without consequence. So he stayed quiet. He let the wrong person be punished for his crime. And he said absolutely nothing for 9 weeks. That is not just cowardice. That is a specific, deliberate choice to sacrifice an innocent person to protect yourself. And I want that named clearly before we go any further. Now let's see what the community said. Because this place, ST, broke the internet a little bit. The top comment, which landed over 47,000 upvotes, was from a user called Justice for the Patiently Wronged. And they wrote, the fact that Ryan read Lily's text, asking him to clear her name and responded with silence is the most damning single act in this entire story. He did not forget to respond. He saw it. He understood it. He chose not to. That is not a man who got caught in a complicated situation. That is a man who made a deliberate decision that Lily's 9 weeks of pain was an acceptable price for his own comfort. I have nothing to add to that. That is precisely correct. Second comment, from therapist_in_the... What Dana did skipping the step of asking her sister first is a very human cognitive failure. When we're in emotional pain, our brains look for the fastest route to an explanation. She saw a familiar name, and her brain supplied the rest. That doesn't make it acceptable. She caused 9 weeks of damage to someone who loved her without asking a single question. But understanding why she skipped that step is important. It's a lesson in how fast we can be wrong when we're certain. This comment is doing something really valuable because it's easy to reduce Dana to a villain in this story. And she is not blameless. She caused real harm. But the mechanism of what she did, the way she moved from, I see something alarming to, I know who is responsible without a single bridge of inquiry, that is something humans do. That is how we hurt people we love without meaning to. The difference between Dana and a genuinely malicious person is that Dana believed she was right. She was catastrophically wrong, but she believed it, and that is its own kind of horror. Third comment, from silent men are not neutral. Can we talk about how the family's response is actually more damning than Dana's? Dana, at least, was in emotional pain. She was operating on what she believed was evidence. What's the mom's excuse? What's Aunt Patricia's excuse? They had no evidence. They had a second-hand accusation from one family member about another, and they chose to issue verdicts. The mom said she was disappointed before she asked a single question. She chose condemnation over curiosity. That is a choice. That is not love. This comment hit me hard, because it's right. Dana had something misread and misidentified, typified, but something that convinced her. The rest of the family had nothing but Dana's word, and they treated that word as a verdict. Lily's mother had raised both of these women. She had known Lily for 25 years, and her response to a single accusation was disappointment, not a question. That's the part of the story that I think will take the longest to heal. Fourth comment, from Bree_energy_is_coward_energy, which, the username, we love wrote. Bree left the group chat. She didn't ask. She didn't text Lily privately. She changed her contact photo and left. And she expected to be welcomed back when the truth came out. Number. No. Number. There is a difference between the people who stayed silent because they didn't know what to say and the people who actively participated in the punishment. Bree participated. She owes a very specific and serious apology.
Yes, and I will expand on this. There is a spectrum of behavior in this story, and I think it matters to name it precisely.
At the worst end is Ryan, who actively chose to let Lily suffer to protect himself. Just below him is Dana, who made a massive mistake without asking a question and then deployed the entire family. Against her sister. Then there are the people like Patricia and Bree, who had no evidence at all and still issued judgments. And then in a category I have some sympathy for, but not total absolution, is the mom, who expressed disappointment rather than curiosity but did not actively participate in cruelty. These are different levels of culpability. They deserve different levels of reckoning. Fifth comment, from Nurse Ratched, has points. She went to work every day and took care of children during all of this. She did her job. She kept going. While her phone was silent and her family had tried and convicted her. I work in healthcare, and I want you to know that takes an extraordinary amount of strength. The kind of person who holds it together enough to do that job under those circumstances is not the kind of person the family was pretending she was. I keep thinking about this too. Lily went to work. She showed up. She did not let what was happening in her private life bleed into her professional one. And I think that's worth saying because it speaks to her character in a way that no proclamation of innocence could. Sixth comment, from other Lily _ wherever you are, we are asleep. Ing on the other Lily in this story. She didn't know any of this was happening. She was just trying to reach a man who had gone quiet on her. She called a number. She spoke to a stranger. And in the process, completely accidentally, she blew apart a lie that had been sitting on top of an innocent woman for 9 weeks. She deserves a fruit basket. I will not comment further on this because I cannot improve on it. Seventh comment, from Family Dynamics Survivor. The silence is the abuse, not the shouting, not the texts, the silence. 9 weeks of silence from people who loved her. That kind of silence has a sound to it. She will not forget how quiet they were. The community has spoken, clearly and completely and with appropriate fury. But guys, I need you to stay right here, because while the phone call between Dana and Lily was enormous, while that moment of "it wasn't you" is a whole story in itself, what happened next, in the days that followed, is the part that will either restore your faith and accountability or remind you exactly why family is complicated. Let's get into the update. Dana called their mother that night, as promised. Lily does not know exactly what was said, ID, because she was not on the call. She learned the content later through her mother's subsequent call to her. But she knows Dana made the call. She knows because her mother called her at 10:47 p.m. She remembers the exact time because she had been lying. Awake waiting for her phone, and her mother's voice was completely different from the last time they had spoken. Her mother said, "Baby, I need to tell you that I am so sorry." That's how she opened. No preamble, no throat clearing. "I am so sorry." Lily said she started crying the moment she heard it. Not loud crying, just the quiet kind that happens when something you've been holding at arm's length finally arrives. Her mother explained what Dana had told her about the other Lily, about Ryan, about the whole catastrophic chain of misidentification. And her mother said, "Lily says she will remember this sentence for the rest of her life. I should have asked you. The first thing I should have done was ask you, and I didn't, and that was wrong. That was a failure on my part, and I am sorry," Lily said. "Yeah, Mom, it was." She didn't soften it. She received the apology. She acknowledged its accuracy. She did not immediately die. Spence forgiveness, as though the 9 weeks hadn't happened. She sat with it. She said she heard her mother and that she needed some time. Her mother said she understood. They said goodnight. The calls from the others came over the next few days. Some better than others, Aunt Patricia called. Her apology was formal and slightly stiff, the kind that emerges from someone who is more accustomed to delivering verdicts than retracting them, but it was present. She said she had spoken too harshly. She said she had relied on second-hand information. Lily accepted it with the same quiet she'd applied to everything in this situation. Bree texted. Lily read the text. She has not yet responded. The text said, "I heard what happened and I'm sorry. I should have talked to you first. Which is true, it is also not enough. Lily knows it is not enough, and she is taking her time deciding what, if anything, she wants to say back. She says she is not ready. Derek, the second cousin, she barely knows who sent the Facebook message, sent another Facebook message apologizing. Lily accepted that one relatively easily. Derek barely features in her real life. His opinion carries the weight of a stranger. Guess? And a stranger's apology is simple enough to accept. And then there was Ryan. Ryan did not call Lily. Ryan did not text Lily. In the aftermath of Dana's discovery, in the wreckage of the engagement which was called off, by the way, Dana broke it off immediately, and he moved out of their shared apartment within a week. Ryan issued no apology to Lily. He sent nothing. His silence, which had lasted 9 weeks during the accusation, continued seamlessly through the exoneration. Lily says she expected this. She is not surprised. She is not even particularly hurt by the absence of his apology, she says, because she had already identified his silence as the defining feature of his character. A man who could watch an innocent person be accused and say nothing was not going to transform into someone who could own the consequences of that choice. His silence was consistent. She had learned over 9 weeks exactly what his silence meant. She filed it away. She is not thinking about Ryan much anymore. She says his absence from her life is the best version of an apology she was going to receive, and she has decided that is sufficient. The harder thing, the thing she is still not getting, is Dana. Because Dana and Lily are sisters. Because Dana called her that night and said it wasn't you. Because Dana made the calls she asked her to make. Because Dana is now dealing not just with the fallout of the false accusation, but with the enormity of a broken engagement and the exposure of a years-long deception by the man she was going to marry. Dana is in pain. Real, legitimate, enormous pain. And Lily is aware of that pain even while she is still sitting in her own. They have spoken twice since the night of the call. Both conversations have been short. Both have been careful. Lily says she does not hate Dana. She says she believes Dana acted from pain rather than malice. She also says that neither of those things erases what happened, that a person can be in pain and still owe someone an accounting for what they did inside that pain. Dana is going to have to earn her way back. Lily is not slamming the door, but she is not swinging it open either. She says she has started therapy, not because she was broken, she wants to be clear about that, because she is smart enough to know that 9 weeks of family isolation and false accusation leaves marks, and she would address those marks with intention, then discover them later in places she didn't expect. She went back to the family group chat. Dana quietly added her back 3 days after the calls. No announcement, no ceremony, just a notification that she had been added. Her mother sent a heart emoji. Lily sent a thumbs up. It was not a healing, but it was a beginning. Let me say this about Lily's story before we move on, because there is something in her composure, in the way she handled every stage of this, that I keep returning to. She did not beg, not once. She asked to be heard, clearly and directly, and when she was not heard, she did not collapse into pleading. She held her ground. She told Cassie the truth. She kept going to work. She waited for the truth to surface rather than scratching at it desperately. And when Dana finally called, when the moment of vindication arrived, she did not use it to perform. She used it to issue a clear, specific request. Call everyone. Tonight. Not tomorrow. Tonight. That request is not the language of someone who has been broken. That is the language of someone who knows exactly what accountability looks like and is willing to insist on it. You were wronged by your sister, by your mother, by your aunt, by your cousin, by your family's willingness to sentence you without trial. You were wronged by a man who read your message asking for help and put his phone face down. You held it. You waited. You are going to be okay. I genuinely, completely believe that. Now, we have had enough of the heavy. Let's finish today's video with something that will make you smile. Because after all that family drama and silence and 9 weeks of injustice, we deserve to feel the particular satisfaction of a petty revenge executed with such precision it could be framed and hung on a wall. Mood booster petty revenge, mood booster. The parking revenge that took 3 weeks and 0 confrontations. I, 38 female, live in a suburban neighborhood outside of Columbus, Ohio. Nice street, quiet. Mostly people who wave when they drive past and actually mean it. I have lived in this house for 6 years.
In those 6 years, I have had one ongoing grievance. One. And that grievance has a name. The grievance's name is not important, but let's call him Phil. Phil lives 2 houses down. Phil owns, for reasons I have never been a part of, to fully reconcile with his personality, a very large, very loud pickup truck. The truck is enormous. We are talking a vehicle that requires a specific kind of confidence to operate on a regular street. The truck has a name. I know this because it is written on the back windshield in decal letters. The truck's name is, and I am not making this up, The Situation. Phil parks the Situation directly in front of my house, not in front of his house, my house. Every single day, Phil has a driveway. Phil has the space in front of his own house. Phil chooses, for reasons that can only be characterized as deliberate, to park the Situation directly in front of my mailbox, which is technically a violation of our county's parking regulations, but not one that the HOA has ever enforced with any conviction. I asked Phil about this once, politely. I said, "Hey Phil, would you mind not parking in front of the mailbox because I have trouble getting my mail out?" Phil said, "Sure, no problem." He moved the truck to slightly in front of the mailbox rather than directly in front of it. This felt like a joke. This was Phil's idea of addressing the situation. For 3 years, I endured the Situation one, complained to my husband. My husband suggested I let it go. I let it go for approximately 4 more months and then stopped letting it go. I started researching county parking regulations, not in a general way, in a specific class-finding, printout-making way. I learned several things. I learned that parking within 15 feet of a fire hydrant is a ticketable offense. I learned that blocking access to a mailbox constitutes obstruction of mail service under federal guidelines, which is not a nothing charge. And I learned most usefully that our county had recently updated its residential parking ordinance to include a provision about vehicles over a certain weight class requiring owner documentation to park on residential streets for longer than 72 hours continuously. The Situation, being an enormous pickup truck, absolutely cleared that weight threshold. I did not call the county directly. That would have been too obvious, too traceable. Phil would have known it was me. I instead waited until I had the complete and accurate regulation citations, and then I wrote a very thoughtful letter to our HOA president, a retired schoolteacher named Margaret, who I knew had her own private feelings about large vehicles on residential streets, noting my concerns about the parking situation on our block and referencing the specific regulation numbers I had found. I framed it as a community safety concern. I included a photograph I had taken of the Situation partially blocking the fire hydrant. I noted the mailbox obstruction. I mentioned the weight class documentation requirement. I signed it with my name. I was not anonymous. I stood behind it. Margaret, as it turned out, had been waiting for exactly this kind of ammunition for approximately 2 years. She forwarded my letter to the county parking enforcement office with a cover note of her own, which apparently contained language that suggested she had been personally monitoring the situation with some frustration. The county sent a notice to Phil within 10 business days. Phil received the notice on a Thursday. I know this because I watched from my living room window as he read it standing next to his mailbox for an unusually long time. The Situation has not been parked in front of my house since. Phil still waves when he drives past. I wave back. We have never spoken about it. We will never speak about it. The Situation is now parked in Phil's own driveway, where it takes up slightly more than its share of space, in a way that I suspect Phil's neighbors find annoying. But that is not my concern. My mailbox is accessible, the fire hydrant is clear, and every morning when I walk outside and see the empty curb in front of my house, a curb that is now simply, quietly, correctly mine, I feel a satisfaction that I can only describe as architectural. Some battles are not won by confrontation. Some battles are won by knowing exactly which form to fill out, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That goes for Phil and the Situation. That goes for Ryan, who chose 9 weeks of someone else's suffering over 5 seconds of honesty. That goes for every family member who delivered a verdict before asking a single question. And to Lily, you waited. You held on. You did not beg. The truth came for you exactly when it was supposed to. You are not the person they decided you were in those 9 weeks. You never were. You are the person who said tonight, not tomorrow. You are going to be magnificent. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, you already know you love. These stories. Hit the subscribe button. Save this one. Share it with someone who's been accused of something they didn't do. I read every comment. I'll see you in the next one.